I'm so happy, like genuinely, I'm so happy we finally won. We're gonna hug, we're gonna kiss, we're gonna eat food.
This is the first time I think we've seen Mimi negative in a series against Guild, which sucks. Yeah, you see she's -1. It almost feels like G2 were punished for being the better team. I think that they should have got...
I definitely broke a few eardrums, right? Like, I'm screaming and stuff. So, like, after a clutch, I'm hyping everyone up.
The only thing I can say is that if I was a Sand, I would be very frustrated.
Let's get into actually talking about Valorant, and it's going to be starting with EMEA. G2 goes and finally gets dethroned by Guild X. This actually went on into a banger series of a 3-2 into the grand finals, and everybody thought it was going to be G2 all the way into Berlin, so we could have the storyline between G2 and Cloud9 White in Berlin, if that's going to be happening. But now Guild X putting themselves into the conversation, so I know you've been doing a lot of watch parties and stuff like that throughout the last few weeks with EMEA Dryad, so how's that been watching a G2 and Guild game?
I haven't co-streamed those, but I've been
Okay.
definitely watching them, and I think it's really nice for the storyline that we have going on between these two teams, and especially because when you look at the results before, yeah, they were kind of close. There were some really close moments, but this one, it was not only really close, but it gave another team that throne for Guild. And yeah, I love how kind of back and forth it is. I feel like, and they said after series two, not only EMEA but also NA, that the teams were improving so fast and improving so much.
Mhm.
And we already got to see the first teams qualifying for that international event. So it changes everything. It changes the story a little bit. I think what everyone is wondering is if this story is going to be the same for other regions where
Mhm.
teams are dominant or staying at the top are still going to stay at the top until the end.
Yeah, we always talked about like Tenstar also being like an underdog, or even Kaze has been making a name for themselves too. And now into Guild X finally dethroning G2. Tanner, I know you were even asking on Twitter, how the hell do I get co-streaming rights to be able to watch EMEA
Yeah.
and stuff like that too? So I know you've been watching it. So what are your thoughts on the series?
So my thoughts are probably not as nice, I guess. Yeah,
Lay
so
down, lay down.
I think this is really cool because now there's a chance that we do get the Cloud9 White G2 goes in matchup earlier, because it should be the #1 seed playing a #2 seed from, different regions depending on how things shake out. So there's a possibility that we get that match very early internationally. The problem that I have with this one, and not to take away from Guild because they have been looking a lot better.
Mhm.
I think Mimi was absent in this series.
Mhm.
If you just go back to the last couple of times that G2 played Guild, Mimi is at the top of the leaderboard, going +15, +16 for the KD on the series. And this is the first time I think we've seen Mimi negative in a series against Guild,
Mhm.
which sucks. Yeah, you see she's -1, which is, it's very minor, and it's obviously throughout 5 games, which they've never played before. But she's usually up there at the top, kind of matching those same stats that you see from Giuliano. Also, coming into this one, G2 made their way through the winner's bracket. They were just chilling from uppers the entire time, and they didn't get anything for it. It just went G2 bans, Guild bans, then the 5 maps get
Yeah.
picked, and it almost feels like G2 were punished for being the better team. I think that they should have got both map bans and then gone from
That's
there. So
interesting, yeah.
I
Because
feel
that's what's
G2 got
usually the
robbed a little bit.
VCTs as well. That
Yeah.
whoever comes up from the upper bracket, that's your advantage in there, because your grand final is a best of 5 is only going to be one best of 5. There's no bracket reset. So to
Mhm.
give an advantage for the winner's bracket, especially in the VCTs, you give the 2 map bands there over to the winner of the upper bracket. So that's actually quite
Yeah.
interesting at the same time. But I'm also even surprised that it's Mimi that's currently playing for G2, because wasn't she on vacation in Toronto over the last week? No, I'm kidding. That's Mimi the caster.
Okay.
That's Mimi the
Okay.
caster.
What?
I know I was going left, but Mimi Chella actually did tweet it out. She's like, "Oh, I didn't play my best, but I promise you, I'm gonna have the best performance you'll ever see in Berlin."
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward for that one as well. So big congratulations, no matter what, though, for Guild X. After
Yeah.
their victory, we could see the celebration right now. Even an interview with Claudia, and let's have a listen to what she has to say.
Yeah, we're probably gonna kiss each other. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm so happy, like genuinely, I'm so happy we finally won. We're gonna hug, we're gonna kiss, we're gonna eat food. Like, it's gonna be a good time.
So they were super happy about it too. I mean, Claudia, somebody who's been in the FPS scene for quite a while. I think she was also known as Cinnamon, if I'm not mistaken. But if not, Claudia has played a lot of CS, CS:GO in the past too. And found a home within Guild
Mhm.
and in the Valorant scene. So big congratulations to them, and then see what happens when they move forward into Berlin once we get into the LAN finals. That said, now we have some changes going on with Guild X moving forward. Do you think that they're going to be like the team to look out for, Dryad, at this point, or are we still going to look at the G2 and C9 storyline being the most dominant team so far for the Game Changers in 2022?
I think it is still gonna be G2. To be fair, I think G2 is still gonna be on top and the kind of favorite team in EMEA to go against Cloud9 specifically, just because they throughout the year they already proved that consistency, even on the grand finals, right? It was really close, and it was the same scenario, a little bit of recognizing other teams are also improving, but it is
Mhm.
G2 the one that has seen consistent, and as long as all the pieces are working together, it should be the matchup. Though I wouldn't say this is kind of the biggest matchup for me. There's
Mhm.
so many teams that are, and it's kind of a narrative that is happening in so many different regions. You have one team that's staying at the top and is extremely dominant, and I just want to see how they face against each other, because the girls in Brazil are absolutely
Yeah.
insane. Liquid looks unstoppable as well. Crew, firepower as well for Latin America look really good. Even the one that I was co-streaming was APAC. And there's some cool ideas over there with teams staying at the top, and then you have to wonder why that consistency is happening and how those teams are going to match up against each other, because it's always EMEA and it's always NA, but this EMEA kind of rivalry that we had going on for those grand finals can be a good indication of what would happen when you see these teams facing each other for the first time in Berlin.
Yeah, that's the fun part about the international scene, the international stages for Masters, for Champions. We always have our heads turning for like the underdogs,
You
the
never know.
APAC. That's how like Paper X started like
Mhm.
getting a name and
Yeah.
like getting into the final. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. Maybe it's not going to be Cloud9, maybe it's not going to be G2, but at least one thing that we can confirm in conversations is things happening in NA this time into the partnership program. We're a little bit late. I think as soon as we finished our show, it was announced pretty much. So Cryocells officially joins here. 100 Thieves, Tanner. Your thoughts now on Cryocells? Is this the right pick for 100 Thieves? How has Cryo been so far? Great addition. Losing Will, is that a gap now for 100 Thieves, or are they just Wing from the get-go?
Yeah, I will say that I was surprised by this, not because of Cryo or anything, but I did think that there was anybody that was going to stick together with recent successes and just with the management that they have. I think 100 Thieves with kind of Nade Shot at the top of it all, but then obviously the direct management being DDK, Sean, and Mike's. That organization to me seems like the organization that is going to trust the process and isn't going to be quick to make changes, kick people out, bring people in. Although we have seen a little bit in past, it's been different. So I thought that they would stay strong as 5. I do like this pickup. Obviously, Cryo, I think, is your number 2 prospect in kind of filling this in. And I know that the conversation is Cryo sells over Yay. But when you look at this, Cryo is pretty directly a 1-for-1 fit with Will versus Yay, who kind of, plays plays the chamber more than anything. So I do think this is a pretty good fit for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, actually, let's hear it straight from Nate Shot, who talks about why people have been going for like that conversation between Cryocells and Yay, and why 100 Thieves decide to go for Cryocells instead of Yay. So let's see what Nate Shot says about that topic.
At the end of the day, I think right now everybody would agree that Ye's probably the best player in the world, if not one of the best players in the world. And there was a lot of interest. Anybody would be silly to not consider Ye to join their team. And it wasn't a matter of expense. It wasn't a matter of common ground between us, in the idea of working together. We just think that Cryo at this moment in time for the rest of the team is probably the best fit. I mean, Ye in the offseason basically is like fucking Michael Jordan. I mean, this guy has dominated Valorant for the last 2 years. And I think any team that lands Ye is going to be very happy with their investment. And if there was a world where Cryo wasn't the best fit for 100 Thieves, I would have leapt at the opportunity to work with Ye. But at the end of the day, we feel as if right now Cryo is the best fit for us. 19, this is his first competitive game. You heard it from himself. And if he's already playing at this level, we feel like with the right investment and the time and resources that 100 Thieves have behind Cryo, that he could really be rivaling Ye one day for one of the best players in the world.
So he definitely doesn't have any money issues, right? He's got that Chipotle sponsorship right
Yeah.
into his webcam. He just came out with the Juby drink. This guy's just rolling in. He's on the fucking Golf 2K or whatever it's called on that in that next golf game coming out too, just being in an ad with Tiger Woods. So I think he's 100 Thieves are doing fine on money too. But let's go into the conversation now of the cryo. He talks about cryo cells being young, having a lot of potential, but being cracked out of his mind at that age. His first FPS game, sorry. But is that going to be that winning combination of building a young roster instead of the veterancy, for example, of Ye, who has played for the longest time, of course, in Valorant, but a very long time in CSGO as well, was almost at the point where he's going to break into the tier 1 scene in CSGO at some point playing in Complexity and TSM, if not mistaken. But do you think this is the right direction for 100 Thieves here, Dryad, seeing that they want to build around a young roster? Are they lacking a little bit of experience through there?
I absolutely love this roster. For 100 Thieves, they've always been one of my favorite teams to watch, specifically in NA as well. And even with the changes after they brought in Sean and everything, it felt like it was actually giving them their result. Now, I totally get what he's saying, and I completely agree. I feel like, obviously, you always want to have Jay in any team because he has an insane amount of potential anywhere that he goes. He already proved what he's capable of doing. But also, you want to have a roster that feels like 100 Thieves, and I feel like Cryo to me really feels like 100 Thieves. I feel like matches really well just with the vibe of the team itself, the vibe of the org. And I know the experience and that conversation of experience, it depends on kind of where it's coming from, right? Cryo, obviously very young player, has a lot of potential, and that's what everyone is talking about, kind of how far can he get, even if he already proved how good he is. But I think you do have a good amount of experience when you look at the coaching staff, when you look at all the other players and the way that they've been working together. You can tell that that young roster has so much potential. Uh, and I think to me, it's going to be one of my favorite teams to look at for next year.
Yeah, and looking at the other end, though, we talk about Crossells being young versus Ye, Tanner, but Ye is only fucking 23.
Yeah.
Right? It's not old in esports. And when you also have Ye in a roster, you can pretty much guarantee that your team is going to go on a 5 versus 4 almost every single round when you have Ye in your roster. So do you think 100 Thieves missed the mark on Ye here?
Yeah, I think this is a big miss, honestly. I think if we're talking like experience-wise, and you're saying, hey, Ethan has so much experience, in Counter-Strike in previous games, do we pick him up over another thing? That's completely different. I would say, no, we don't want that Counter-Strike experience. We want the Valorant experience. But Ye has both, right? Ye, it has the Counter-Strike background, the tactical shooter background, the fundamentals of what Valorant is, and all of the Valorant experience behind it. So I think this is a huge miss. And I think they're really taking a chance on Cryo. Ye to Michael Jordan, Cryo to Mike Tyson here, right? Where he's just had the highest highs. He's been this heavyweight champion. Once you get knocked out once, you're not the same fighter, right? And Cryo hasn't hit that wall yet. And I think in kind of the struggles that Ye has felt in his career, he's already got past that, right? So once Cryo hits that wall, it's a coin flip as to whether or not he is going to start to regress and maybe doubt himself, or continue to push forward and be the player that we all know that he can be. And I think they're really coin flipping on Cryo, and I do think it's a big miss on Ye.
I see that being interesting that you mentioned that he hasn't really hit a wall yet, because if you look at Exit at the Masters 2, they kind of just fell flat once they got into the playoffs, right? Although one of the matchups that they played against had to be against Optics, so it was like one of those rivalries where they are already figured out. You're trying to practice against other teams and it didn't work out. But Cryocells definitely showed some impressive numbers at Champions compared to even to Ye. Both of them were at the top of their game at that event. So and also somebody in the chat, Wazarka, was saying that didn't Stellar and Cryer play together in SOAR in the past? Indeed, they did. So maybe that could be the winning factor for picking Cryocells over Ye. And the other thing too is that you do have great leadership and veterancy within your coaching staff of DDK, Sean Garris, and Mike's, but also just the IGL himself. Stellar, still very young, but when you listen to him speak, he seems like he has like a good head on his shoulders, very calm, and is able to like guide his team very, very well. So I think overall, 100 Thieves could definitely look like a team that could make some impact going into the partnership program. I don't think anything else is going to happen within the roster in itself. So we'll have to wait and see. The roster lock's coming up in like a week and a half. That said, though, there is going to be a little bit of controversy in North America as we stay up on the grounds of NA, but this time in the collegiate scene. This is a little bit of a controversy in terms of the Red Bull Campus Clutch into the online qualifiers that happened last week. Basically, to give you a lowdown of how it works out for the Red Bull Campus Clutch, you have a grand finals that's going to be happening in this close location. But that said, it's almost like a World Cyber Games Olympics kind of thing. You're competing within your own region, within your own country to represent that country into the grand finals versus all of the other countries. So this team right here is a university. It starts with an N. It slips up on my mind. I think it's Northwood, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Northwood.
So
yeah.
Evolve is a player for Northwood. They went through the qualifiers of single elimination BO1s, made it into the grand finals, and won against DePaul 13-0 to actually qualify. They were ready to go into the regional finals in the US. They signed their forms and everything too, and then suddenly the admins came back and spoke to them and said, oh, sorry, we have to replay back from the semifinals because one of the players that you played against wasn't eligible to play for the tournament. So instead of just giving that other team a huge forfeit, they went for the replay instead. And because these guys are already hyped up by winning 13-0, making it to the finals in the US, they replayed, lost, and then unfortunately didn't make it through. And how that works basically is it's the top 4 teams that actually make it into the finals. But at least what happened a couple of days later, maybe one day later, I saw a tweet maybe 20 hours after saying that they had a conversation with Red Bull, and I think the TO that was organizing it was Faceit, at least using the client, and everything went well between these two admins and also organizer from Red Bull Gaming. All was resolved, all good to go. So basically, Northwood joins the other 4 teams into the LAN finals instead of kicking one out. So that has been resolved, but has it been handled the correct way from the beginning to the end here, Tanner?
Oh, man, this just keeps popping up. This a couple weeks ago. Today we got it on the show. What needs to happen is Riot needs to have a line that you can call, and when you call it to check out the rules, it says, "Please wait as our options have changed." Right? But in our case, it says, "Please wait as our rule book has changed," because it seems like the teams aren't really doing their due diligence to figure this stuff out. And in this specific situation, if we're familiar with the rule books and that a substitute can't be playing 2 series ago, I guess 2, they're best of 1, so not really series, but 2 games ago, and it's only getting figured out after the tournament is basically ended. I think that's at fault on Riot, because they're clearly not saying, hey, we have made changes to our rule book. This is not the same rule book as it was last week. We have added new things. Please read through this again. And then it's obviously on the coaches or the managers of these teams in reading that and figuring that stuff out. Obviously, for this specific situation, Northwood didn't play that team, right? Or yeah, Northwood, I don't think played that team.
They didn't play that team. It was another team in the semis.
They had to, exactly. They had to play another team because that team played another team, and it got super weird. So it's not necessarily on Northwood's coach to figure that out, but everything leading up to that, I think that the communication has been really poor recently, even at the highest levels of Valorant right now. So I think we need to have a bit more clear communication, and coaches now, like at this point, hey, please start to read the rule books and get things figured out, because it just keeps happening, man, week to week.
Yeah, in the end, it brings out again the importance of having the right amount of admins or the right admins also to help you out in such large scale tournaments, especially when it comes down to Red Bull Campus Clutches. I'm pretty sure there's at least like 100 teams minimum that would like to play. I mean, it's free to play usually,
There's
and
so
you have a chance to make it to the grand finals on LAN, right? So, and that's only one region, exactly, Dan. There's a shit ton around the world that actually wants to play and represent their university team, their collegiate team, going into the Red Bull Campus Clutch. Your thoughts actually on anything you want to add going into this conversation, Dryad, or we'll just move on at this point?
I'm ready to move on.
If you've been enjoying Valoranting, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get every episode hot off the presses.
Let's continue on, though, with roster news. I mean, there's just rumors that goes on left and right. We talked a lot about it in the NA scene. We haven't really done too much in the other regions yet, but we're going to stick to NA for now. To start things off, I guess it's now official here that Teufel of T1 is now a free agent looking for opportunities to move forward to somewhere else. Potentially Steel at this point too, because the conversation around T1 was that you can only have one import player. I think Twyfo and Steel were both going to be one as well if they were going to go to Korea as well. But Steel, I don't think really tweeted anything out that he's looking to move yet or not. So that's still going to stay within the conversation and within the question marks. But also JDM has officially been released out of FaZe Clan. Of course, I wanted to see more impact coming out of JDM. More impact in the sense that I wanted to see JDM continue to thrive and succeed, so I have a chance to see him at LAN to finally talk to him about his journey in Valorant and see how that's been. But all the best for JDM. Hopefully he still lands on his feet. He's still looking for an organization to represent at that point too. Or maybe at this point here, if it comes down to Twyfo not wanting to move to Korea or still maybe wants to move to Korea still, maybe some other players should follow what Aaron's currently doing, right? So apparently there's a rumor that just came out about an hour ago or so about Global Esports. Global Esports went with an announcement of a top secret player 1. You may call him X, you may call him Y, but we just call him player 1 for now. There's a bunch of clips of him moving forward, or of this player in game, using like the casters of Doug. I think Bren was in there as well. But when you look at it, apparently it's some clips coming on from Aaron of XSET. So that's the biggest one so far. Dryad, Tanner, starting with you, Dryad. Thoughts about Aaron and thoughts about him moving over to Korea for Global Esports, the Indian
I'm
organization.
super interested in this. I really, I mean, it seems like it's obvious after everyone kind of figure out what was going on in the clips and who the clips came from. But this is so interesting to me because, yeah, I mean, he's not being quiet about it. Everyone at this point knows what's going on with Aaron, and I feel like it has a little potential, though. I wonder how many more of these moves to other regions we're going to be seeing, because teams are just announcing kind of the players that are moving and the big changes that are happening. This one is so interesting because I want to see how everyone else around the team is going to look like and how they're going to complement Aaron. I feel like he's a really good player. He proved himself and everything in that you expect him to be. But when you're starting in a whole other region, I feel like you need to start over, right? You can't really count the successes before taking into account how that actual team is going to look like.
Yeah, and that said, though, let's move on to talk about more competitive integrity, and who better than to ask this question over to Tanner? But I'm going to give some context before. This actually happened during the Game Changers, and of course, it was with the winners of the tournament too, being Guild X. So during a match versus Ascend, basically, if you're watching what's happening within this clip during the game itself, Starshow also mentions this being like quote unquote round changing, just even worse probably than the Killjoy turret. What happens is around the Viper molly. So the snake bite that gets thrown on the ground. So let's say you're going for a defuse and your Viper has a lineup. If you have a Viper and they throw, and your team and your teammate Viper throws a snake bite on the ground, you actually get your teammate's damage and not your opponent's damage on the HP that takes down. So technically, you have great opportunities to stick a plant, especially on a Sage wall. It seems as though at this point, when you're looking at this clip, it was actually a rehearse retake strategy to be able to play a diffuse off against Viper Molly. So there's some reactions that went through left and right throughout the community. We saw Stark show from the beginning too. We also had comments coming out from Ascend themselves to see what happens there or what happened during the game. But a couple of hours later, this came out here from the EMEA VCT stating that round number 18 and 19, we saw that happened. We had to play we had to play the round starting at round 20 and also penalizing Guild X by having an automatic round loss for every round that they've used the exploit. Thankfully for Guild X, they still ended up winning this tournament and they still ended up winning the game. That said, though, was this handled the correct way? I mean, it seems as though you're only going to try to do some ruling and play some certain rulings off everything that's only caught on camera. What about everything that's not caught on camera? Are there other bugs that are being exploited at this point that's not being caught by the observer? And where are we drawing the line to say this is okay, this is not okay? Should we just play the bugs out? Should we just have like a challenge system? What the fuck can we do to maintain a competitive integrity around these bugs here, Tanner?
Yeah, so I think in this specific situation, the punishment needs to be way more harsh. In an instance like this where it's So the bug is known, and the player is actively exploiting the bug, right? Like, if you accidentally make a bug happen, I don't think the punishment should be as harsh. But when it's something as egregious as this, where you are actively shooting your own molly down and layering it on top, I mean, that's abuse, right? That is bug abuse to me. And in some of the tweets that we were seeing, and we all know, you don't need to see tweets to know this, but the momentum that's stolen away from teams by doing stuff like this, even in replaying the rounds, right? When Ascend, I'm sure, and this weren't at the end of everything when they said, hey guys, we're going to replay those rounds. They're all pissed off that they're cheating. And then they're not just immediately going to flip the switch and be like, yes, yay, guys, everybody get motivated. We're replaying these rounds. Let's fucking win it. Like, that's not happening. The mental switch isn't just there. Like, it's going to take a second for your anger to subside and that adrenaline to go away to be able to sit down and replay this, because as we saw, Guild still won and they lost, I'm pretty sure, the next map, right? So this would have been, if Ascend eventually end up winning that icebox, this would have been a 2-0 in favor of Ascend, a huge upset in the lowers. Guild would have not advanced forward and would never have eventually won the tournament. So I think when players are actively exploiting bugs, we need to be a bit more egregious, as you know, the exploit is, or the abuse is, and punish these teams in more than just losing those rounds or just replaying. It's like that stuff is just, it's not enough. And again, you gotta read the rule books, man. That alone needs punishment, just to show that the coach and the management isn't doing that. This is at the highest level. At college, if you're a student and a coach, maybe you don't have the time to read through everything because you got midterms. At the highest level, man, this stuff can't keep happening.
Dan, you were saying, was there anything you wanted to add to Tanner's comments now?
I was just thinking, I mean, there's got to be consistency in when these things are happening, what action is being taken, and how quickly it is. There's something going on after it happens. I do know, though, and like, this is something that I think about constantly. It has to be extremely difficult to have the people at Ryder or any tournament watching all the POVs and trying to catch all those things, because there's so many things that you don't really know. And the one thing that came to mind when I heard about this, because it was an intentional bug that was being exploited, I remember what happened in Champions with that Viper wall that Sugetsu was using on Icebox. And that didn't get any punishment, but that wasn't in the rule book. That was the first time, though it didn't get any punishment because Riot just weren't aware that that was the thing that you could do, right? After it got added to the rule book, so you start learning, but it did take some time for people to figure out, like, hey, this is probably not right. So I do recognize that part, that is extremely difficult to recognize and to get all those bugs right when they happen. And sometimes it has to be, maybe even after the match is over, as it's happened before. But I mean, the best thing that we can do, and like the best thing that players and teams can do, is, like Tanner was saying, kind of read the rule book, really understand what is going on. And on the other side, maybe come up with a system for tournaments where you always have the POV of players. And I mean, how much can you do? How many POVs can you be watching at the same time to make sure that it's not only up to the observers to catch kind of the bug that is taking place?
The only thing that's tough, though, is that if you do want to have, because I was thinking about the replay system too, that's going to be good to be looking at the 10 POVs, right? But devil's advocate is that if you actually do have that and there's going to be a challenge, there's still going to be time that's going to be used against that challenge. So technical pause, whatever that's going to be. And when you're in a tournament that has like 256 teams that's participating, and the advancement of the bracket relies on the completion of the previous games, that's going to lead to potentially a very, very, very fucking long tournament over the course of the weekend. So it's a very touchy subject and very hard to really try to put it in the end. But I do agree with both of you in terms of that rule book. I think there has to be some conversation also between TOs at that point. Should there be even a separate booklet of bugs that's official that you cannot use, and then just put that, paste that in every Discord that you're on, make sure that that's updated. Make sure that the coaches and the IGLs and whoever's involved of reading the rule books are up to date and are known that there's going to be an updated rule book around these bugs for them to read these through. And then you can maybe make your punishments a little bit harder when it's found on camera.
Can I get in on this again really quick?
For sure.
So I think if 256, we're crazy open brackets again. it's on the coaches to be able to prove that X team cheated. So I think what happens is you play out the series, you're pissed about X round, however it changes. So either your team wins the series because you just win the series and the bug abuser, it didn't matter, or you eventually lose that series and you do take it to the admins, right? You have a replay system. You say, hey, on Ascent, map number 2, round 11, this team cheated. Because you don't have doesn't have the manpower, or whoever the tournament organizer doesn't have the manpower to watch every single POV and do it. The tournament organizer checks and says, yeah, this bug, it either did happen or it didn't happen. If it did happen, hey, you didn't read the rules, you guys exploited a bug, you forfeit, and X team moves on, right? You kind of catch it as the round is ending. You're not letting it get any deeper. It's all up to the coaches to be able to challenge that and kind of hold that fate.
That's another can of worms, because imagine if it was like the XSET versus FPX game, right? Where, again, the turret. Even though the turret itself was like a real big issue into that one, but like they had to replay the round when the game was over. If the game is already over, then and you have to go back and replay, or if the game is already over and you're forfeiting the other team, that's gonna send a shit ton of fans against you.
There's
tough,
no way.
There's no real solution to it right now. To at least to what I gather from our conversation here, but I hope that there's going to be at least some middle ground or some good, like a threshold or at least a minimum that they need to reach in terms of this rule book.
Consistency.
Yeah, exactly. Consistency. At least one thing that's sure in terms of consistency is the continuation of rosters being dropped, rosters changing, and now it's unfortunately about NRG releasing officially all of their roster with the exception of SOM. So to start things off, there's been a couple of tweets that came out from every single one of the players, but there were also some of them that went through a stream later on, including Hayes, including Ethan, that had further conversations about the situation in itself. And this is starting off here with Hayes with a tweet longer, mentioning what he was planning to do after being released here from NRG, where basically he wants to make a team and figure it out, but let's hear it from him himself.
We're gonna have to do, talk to me and talk to NRG and work something out. If nothing comes my way, which I don't think anything will, another note that I put in the tweet longer, my reason why I don't think anyone's gonna reach out. I will possibly try to put together an Ascension League roster.
So I was mentioning here, and his tweet longer, I had a chance to read it as well, is maybe no other team wants to pick him up because he's like, 33 now, and it's very hard to find like younger players that want to fall behind the IGL or the leadership of Hayes. But he also wants to build an Ascension team to just beat the fuck out of NRG that dropped him, which I fucking love. But before we get into the comments too of seeing what happened with Hayes, let's also see what Ethan had to say. Check out the tweets from the rest, and then we'll have a conversation about it. So let's have a listen to what Ethan also had to say about his release from NRG.
Everyone else kind of just got forced out. No one really like left. There's no really bad blood or anything. It's just like, hey, you guys are gone. See ya, kind of thing. You know what I mean? From like a competitive standpoint, I mean, anything else aside, I probably would have stayed on like 100 Thieves, just from like competitive results-based stuff like that. If I had to do it again, I would.
Microphone muted.
Is there a chance 100 Thieves naughty would be possible once again? Probably not. Not because of my decision, but I think they're solid with their 5. I don't see them changing anyone else after Cryo. You join a franchise team as a 6th if given the opportunity? Nah.
So Ethan says, nah. Yeah, I don't want to be a 6-man. I just want to play in a main roster. And it definitely shows that he wanted to be the type of person that wanted to win, right? So playing with the 100 Thieves in the first place with high-profile names was to win. Joining NRG was to win. And then now he kind of regrets, it feels like, leaving 100 Thieves, should have stayed there and probably would have had a winning solution. That said, though, you look at the rest of the roster, Tex EU, Josh RT, the coach, also got released. But now the rumor here is, Tanner, that it is going to be a lot of the Optic Gaming's old roster. So FNS, Crashies, Victor joining SOM, and most recently with Artis, apparently, of FPX. So I want to know your thoughts about this roster.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I thought was going to happen with Crashies and Victor being free agents. I thought EU's great, but
they're also
Crashies,
a package deal, pretty much.
Yeah, and exactly. And because they are a package deal, it was either going to shoot themselves in the foot or it was going to work. And I thought NRG is where they land. I definitely thought Hazed would stay, but it makes sense that if you're bringing over the bulk of it, you might as well get both brains behind the operation than, maybe just Chet or not even Chet or FNS at all and keeping Hazed. Shout out Hazed. I hope he does land on his feet. I'm excited to see him push through Ascension if he does. But I think this just makes sense for NRG. They want to start winning, and two of the hottest players in their roles were on the market, and they scooped him up and then some.
Yeah. And then looking at it at the same time, too, people have been bitching about NRG having role clashes if that was going to be the case, especially in like the controller role. If you have like FNS, if you have like Som, or just in general for duelists, because you have Som, Artis, and Victor at this point. So there's a lot of controversy around that
previously.
Exactly.
So,
And it brings the importance of what it's like when you're looking from from Angel's point of view, saying that it's important for players to have a deep map pool or a deep agent pool, which is why we have so many different compositions in our teams. And I think this might be still a winning composition now for Energy Dryad.
This is looking pretty good, especially if the rumors for the 3 players of Optic end up coming through. And also because I am so interested in seeing, in the current state of Valorant, I'm interested in seeing Ched on the coaching role without Ye. I want to see how that's going to play out, because I love the way that him and Finesse work together. I feel like definitely like one of the best. Of course, they have already proved themselves multiple times, but without Ye, without that opening fragger that we get to see every time, it's gonna be a different story. And I feel like with Som, it is an interesting combination of a team that I feel like can get some really good results. All the players, I think the only one that would be left behind right now would be Marved. And I don't really know about Marv. I'm feeling Sentinels, but I don't know.
I'm feeling that as well. I think that's the rumors going on to
Yeah.
that point as well. Sentinels is looking to build a super team at this point, and we'll talk about
Everybody
Sentinels in a
is.
bit, right? But let's take the advantage of having you on the show here, Dryad, because if we have you on, of course, we're going to have to ask about South America and Latinam and see what's going on in those regions, because most recently, I think the biggest ones that are floating around, and let's talk about the confirmation, at least to start. It's Bazooka, the main coach here from Loud. They won champions, and somehow Bazooka still leaves the team. Now, I'm assuming this is going to be a mutual parting ways, but what's the rumors behind Bazooka, why he left this roster?
Right now, nobody really knows what is going on, because for Bazooka, they haven't clearly said why he left, if it was a mutual thing, if he got another offer, because he said he was a free agent, right? So that doesn't seem like it was initially the case. There was a stream from Sadak where he was saying that the team, they really want to stick together. They really want to stick together, but they were having 2 to 3 meetings every single day because they were constantly getting offers, and they didn't really know what to do. But the whole idea of the team is that Loud wants to stay together, though things can go a different way. And I feel like the first indication that we got of things going a different way is Bazooka not being in the roster anymore, which honestly is a little concerning. It's a little surprising for everyone, right? You see, you just won champions. The team has to stay together. You already proved yourself against every other team internationally. But I'm afraid because they already have their interest in staying together. They work really well. They match really well in every single way possible. But I feel like if one player leaves, which I feel like it's all still potential with everything that Sadak was saying, it can just break apart. And then you just have a mess in the couple days that we have for player or for teams to define the roster. You have what, like 10 days for the official 6, and then you can make changes again.
Yeah, interesting. Even Typho in the chat saying, if Loud isn't safe, nobody is safe, right? I feel that for sure. The other crazy part too is Crew parting ways with Kesnet. Kesnet has been the most consistent player on LAN for any organization so far. I think if you're looking at Kesnet's numbers on LAN, it's just you're capping if he's not in like your top 20 going into the tournaments. That said, though, he's still leaving Crew, even if Crew has a partnership spot. Rumors are, though, is that he's potentially joining Koi with Mixwell. So what are your thoughts on that one here, Dryad? Is that what you've been hearing through the rumbles as well?
I haven't heard too much of Kesnet. Everybody's kind of worried. I don't want to say worried, but a little worried about where he's gonna go, right? Because Leviathan, on one side, they seem like a pretty consolidated roster at this
Mhm,
point. They're
mhm.
gonna make a couple changes, right? And there's some rumors about Messino actually going to Leviathan, and then you have one more player. The rumor is that it's gonna be a player from Brazil.
Mm.
But for Crew, uh, I feel like the changes were obviously necessary. They are a really good team in Latin America, but when you're going to America's League, that's a different story. And I feel like because the team has been staying together for that long and they got some okay results, you start getting maybe some bad habits or like inconsistency that can't really fix even after Leaso came in this year. So
Mhm.
for Kesnet, and he said it on his stream once. He said he had one offer for a tier 1 team, but if he has to run through the Ascension League, he's gonna do it. He's just committed to do everything,
Wanted
and
to
that would
play.
be scary having Kesnet on the Ascension League. That would be terrifying. But I feel like the only possibilities that I see right now is either him going to Koi or a Spanish team,
Mhm.
or he's gonna be in the Ascension League. I don't see him getting picked up by Crew again, because it seems like it was a mutual thing. And
Mhm.
Leviathan, it seems like it would probably be sticking with King. So
Yeah, yeah.
where do you put Kesnet? And he also doesn't know a lot of English, so
Mhm.
that's another thing.
Oh, so if he doesn't know a lot of English, it only almost even makes more sense that he
Yeah, you
goes
cut
into
all the
Koi or
options,
something,
yeah.
right? Yeah, because he had a nice little bromance that went onto the Twitter feeds and stuff like that when he was hanging out with Mixwell before. Mixwell's not with G2 anymore. Well, technically not with G2 because G2 is not part of the partnership program anymore. So that's opportunity for him to play with Kisset at this point. You know how Mixwell always wanted to be a duelist too, right? So he could play Nax's position as a jet this time too in a new team. But fuck it, we'll talk about it another time. There's so much to talk about Mixwell, but
Yeah.
I will use it for another day. Let's talk about Sentinels though in North America. Finally building from I guess top down. I like to say at this point, if you're gonna put your management and your coaches
Yes.
at the top, right? So Tanner, Sentinels picking up superstar coaches with Psycho and Kaplan. Our very own shitty human Kaplan joining as the strategic coach and Psycho as the head coach. We don't know what the roster is going to be yet, but at least when you see this in front of you, is this giving you hope?
This gives me so much hopes. This actually, I always kind of got the frat boy vibe from Sentinels, so this is not the direction I thought they were going. Because
Exactly.
you've got like Proud Pop 1 and Proud Pop 2 and Psycho and Kaplan. But first and foremost, I'm so excited to see these guys land on their feet. Obviously, with what happens with Xen, what happens with Ghost, immediately you look to the people that you're close to and you say, I hope these guys land on their feet. So it's great to see Sentinels obviously monopolizing Valorant as a whole. That's really the place that you want to be. It seems like they've got a good idea of really how to control Valorant, both in game and out, just on screen in general, content creation, all that good stuff. And these guys are brilliant. We saw Ghost rise top 10 even further in North America under the reign of Kaplan, and then we've obviously seen what Xet can do with Psycho. Yeah, it's really exciting to see, and it does seem not that Sentinels haven't been taking it seriously, but this does really feel like it's not the Sentinels of old. It is going to be a new Sentinels, and they're here to fucking play.
Yeah. And that said, though, with those two guys joining the Sentinels coaching team, unfortunately, they had to say goodbye to Raucus. And Dan, you've been a fan, I'm assuming, of Raucus, following him into Overwatch League 2 before. Your thoughts now with Raucus departing the roster?
I'm not sure if I can see. I mean, there's so many insane coaches right now, especially that already. I mean, as of right now, they have a set plays in a tier 1 team that I don't know where Rocco's would go. I would see maybe a potential for Ascension League for him, or maybe supporting another coach. I feel like, I mean, there's some good ideas. I do like him, and I've known him for a long time, just like watching him and everything else. But I'm really happy about Psycho and Kaplan. I feel like this combination is absolutely insane. I've been following Kaplan as well for quite a bit now, and I love the ideas that he brings, and the combination with Psycho as well. It reminds me maybe even of what we saw from Ghost in the tier 2 scene, and what Kaplan was bringing to the table, and how that was implemented by Exit. So I feel like they were already indirectly working together, or maybe directly working together. And yeah, I think what Tanner was saying too. Sentinels always look like a kind of like a weird team to me, just in terms of the vibes that they give off. But this is such a good sign for whatever's gonna come next.
Yeah, I think it's one of those moments when you're at the top and you want to stay at the top, but you don't want to listen to the people around you saying that you're doing it the bad way. Because like, if they were right, then why the fuck are they not at the top, right? And I think that's kind of like what I feel like was kind of like the mentality that Shazam kind of had when he was actually IGLing for this team. He actually tweeted out, I think even yesterday, going through like some reflections about the past year, and I actually fucking love this tweet. His 2 tweets here, I'm even going to take time to read it. He wants to address a few things from this year. He messed up responding to all the criticism, and because of all that negativity, it became impossible to ignore and own up to it, and he fed into it. So then it kind of diminished his streams. He kind of diminished his IGL style, and he's learned from it. And now he wants to make sure that he's going to be able to stay positive and have a good space. Is this going to be into content creation, or is this going to be like, give me another chance at IGLing? I'm going to prove you that I have the right mentality and I have the right skill set and what it takes to take a team to the top. I feel that at this point, at least starting off with the 2 coaches that came in, with Weltis and Danny, that probably still stays in that management position or the coaching position between Weltis and Danny. This team, without thinking about the roster that's speculated to join, has what it takes to put a huge impact into the partnership program of 2023. So I'm looking forward to that. And if that's going to be the case with Shazam even saying at IGL, I'm still on board with that for Sentinels too. That said, though, we were hanging out here on the show and I already saw like our next guest actually hopping on the VMix and getting ready to go. And that's going to be Lace from Complexity to join us for an interview after this break. But just before that, of course, gonna have to say, oh, it looks like Danny left. Thank you, Sleeping Mun, for the confirmation. But that said, big thank you to Twitch for putting this show possible, or helping us putting this show together by giving us some mad dough. So thank you for that. We'll go for a break. When we come back, Lace from Complexity with our first interview. What is up, everyone? Welcome back here to Valoranting. I just see in the chat Emily Cutie saying, hey, I only have 30 minutes left to complete the quiz, so we have to get in through the interview right away. So let's go ahead and introduce her. We actually do have Lace for Complexity joining us right now for our first interview of the show today. Lace, welcome to the show. It's been a while since I had an opportunity to speak with you, since I had an opportunity to play 10 minutes with you and own you with the sheriff. But now at this point, you're here at the Complexity compound, and were you awake? Because I heard that you usually wake up at 2 p.m.
Yeah. Getting out of bed this morning was rough. Like the new schedule, we got some early risers. I was like conked out. My teammate Powerpixel at like 7 a.m. was like, yo, I'm going to the facility. Anyone want to queue ranked? I'm like, bruh, I just went to bed. Like, I cannot queue with you. But yeah, it's really good to be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
To you guys, so.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for coming on for sure. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I think there's opportunities for us to know a lot more about you, Lace, going into your career, moving into Valorant, and how everything started and how things are now. Because 2 years ago when you first started playing this game, you probably didn't know anything about Valorant before, and then now here you are for Complexity. So let's talk about that journey. Getting into Valorant in the first place, or just gaming in general. Has gaming always been a passion for you? Because listen to your conversation with Jake, or seeing what you tweeted over here, there I see 0 FPS games. Is this 8-Ball Yahoo like the Beards game, or how does that work?
Yeah, so like when I first started gaming, it was mostly like casually with my brothers, and they mostly played like sports games and stuff. So I never really like was into FPS until like Valorant, I guess. And yeah, I mean.
No, I was gonna say your brothers that have been always into sports. Were they also into real sports? Because I heard you're also like okay. So what were they playing in the past too?
They played basketball and hockey.
Okay,
and
then
I mostly played volleyball, so we were like all around kind of.
What got you into volleyball at this point?
It was like a school sport, like in my middle school, and I like enjoyed it a lot, so I started playing like more seriously, and that was kind of like my life before Valorant, I guess.
And you've also made it up to D1. So I'm a fucking noob when it comes down to like classes in terms of real sports, but look at this, D1 in volleyball and a 4.0 GPA. To being a DJ in Valorant that plays for 10 hours a day. So how did that turn into I wouldn't really necessarily call it a 180, because I'd like to still say that a career in esports is still very, very you could still feel very accomplished with that too. So what moved you away from Valorant to get into Valorant today?
Yeah, I mean my parents might not say it's a big accomplishment, but I I definitely, when like COVID hit, I also got injured for volleyball, so I had so
Okay.
much like free time on my hands, and I needed like a new passion at the time for like a couple months, and luckily I had like an old laptop lying around, and I started getting into games. I think I started with like Among Us, and then like one of my friends,
Nice.
one of my friends from that like was playing Valorant, and they invited me to play, and yeah, it was really fun.
Awesome.
That is actually really cool, and the story that you have with volleyball as well, and those like traditional esports, even in your family. Do you think that also helps you or like makes you competitive just naturally?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that has helped me a lot from sports is like learning. Oh, sorry, I'm like not focused.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're good.
I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. Okay.
You're good. You're
I
good.
think like one thing that's helped me a lot from sports is like knowing how to improve, I guess, and like improve quickly. I feel like that's one thing that you learn, like how to take coaching, how to like be open to like new things and like trying new things and seeing like what works for you. And like a lot of that applies in sports. And I think like bringing that into Valorant was really helpful.
And so I don't mean to take this like in a melancholy route or like slow
Mhm.
things down, but obviously D1 prospect, what, at 16 years old, you're like a sophomore or a junior, and you're already looking to get offers then. You get injured and you kind of shift your life into Valorant. What was that like for you in kind of like that realization that, you know, you are giving up
Mhm.
volleyball to pursue something else? What was that like for Lacey?
Honestly, it was like a really, really hard decision. And like there are definitely days where I miss it like a lot, like playing volleyball, all my old friends and stuff. It was hard. I remember there was one tournament where it was like the GC was on the same weekend, like the first Game Changers ever was like the same
Mhm.
weekend as like a big tournament for us. And like I kind of had to like think about it and be like, dude, like this is like a big like moment. Like, do I play like the
Right.
first ever Game Changers, or do I play like this big qualifier for like nationals, right, for volleyball? And I like had a lot of talks with my friends and my parents, and I was like, long term, like I see myself being more happy with Valorant than with volleyball. And they like, luckily they supported me. I know not like all parents are like 100% on board, but luckily they had like
That's
a
awesome.
lot of
That's,
support for me. So yeah,
yeah.
that was a stressful time in my life for sure.
Go ahead, Dan. You wanted something to add on top of that too here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about what you're telling us with your parents and the support. Kind of how was that transition? How long did they take to get or like understand Valorant? Do they understand it? I always love asking about this because my mom turned into the biggest Valorant fan. She watches Champions. She's like #1 crew Leviathan fan. So every time I hear like other parents being supportive, like I wouldn't know that story.
I mean, they've always been supportive at gaming, I guess. Like, well, it took a second, I guess, but they didn't really. They thought I was getting scammed, I guess. Like my mom, especially, like knew nothing about gaming, and she thought I was getting scammed until like our first ever boot camp where we like got announced, kinda. She came with me right to Texas, and she thought we were gonna get like kidnapped or something.
No.
And then, like we showed up at the complexity facility, and like we looked at each other, and she was like, "Oh wait, this is like legit and stuff. Like it's like a real thing."
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then moving forward as well, because I wanted to maybe talk a bit about your conversation again with Jay Lucky. If you guys want to check that out,
Mhm.
it's on Jay Lucky's YouTube too. But you were mentioning like moments of FOMO here and there, because we just talked about the important decision you had to make switching out from not competing in volleyball anymore to go into Valorant. And then you also had the conversation with Jake saying like, you know, there's some things that I might miss doing as a person of my age, like hanging out with friends in real life in person and stuff like that too. But here you are at your second or third boot camp at the complexity facility with your teammates. Now you actually have an opportunity to hang out with people in person rather than just online and stuff like that
Mhm.
too, and seeing your teammates. Has your angle changed now into that certain topic where you finally feel a little bit more comfortable in this type of like environment?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Astral Clash LAN that went on. I
Oh
think
yes,
Tanner, I
yes,
met you
yes.
there.
Yeah.
But I think that was like one of the moments where I felt like more happy or like more at peace with my decision. Because before that, it was like all online, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, I met my teammates,
Yeah.
but I'm like, or I was like 10 years younger than like my next like youngest teammate. So it was like, I was like, Brad, like, what am I supposed to talk to you about? But I think definitely at the Astro Clash LAN, like meeting everyone, like having fun with them, I think like I definitely felt a lot better about being with Valorant, at least like for my personal life.
Awesome.
Well, and so your teammates, right?
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think in early Game Changers, we had you on for an interview, and I think you had mentioned at the time that you had met Ali, who has kind of been the head of GX3 Girls Got Game. At the time of meeting her, you were a silver player, or so
Yeah.
a silver player and meeting Ali, and now obviously where you are today. What can you attribute your rapid growth, right? It's been a year and you went from a silver player taken under the wing of Ali Monster here on Twitter, and now you're playing at the highest level and you're actually freaking winning tournaments, right? So how did you grow from just this silver gamer to where you are now?
I definitely do. I think we talked about it a little bit, but like, kind of just like the mentality that like everyone else is better than you, and like everyone has something that you can learn from, right? I feel like if you go into like any conversation like thinking you're right, or thinking that like you have something like up on someone else, and it's just like your growth is stunted, right? Like, so I think like playing, like we would 5-stack 10-man every day, and like sometimes I would die first, and I would just be like, I'd be like, why did they make this play? Like after, like I would be watching people that like I knew were like much more talented than me at the time, and I would like watch them and be like, okay, what did they do here? Why did they do it? How can I do that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that helped a lot. Like doing that every day for like a year, I guess. I think you'll definitely, or I definitely improved a lot from that, and I appreciate like everyone that like put up with me when I was like dropping like single digits and all the 10 man, right? Like the last pick, you know? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna become the last pick now at this point. The next time I
No,
play
no,
a
no.
10-man, I don't think my share is gonna be as good compared to you anymore. But you just mentioned that motivation. I actually want to put that into context because you did mention that that portion with Jake Lucky, as well as what gave you that motivation, or how do you stay motivated. So let's actually have a look at that real quick.
I think like one of the most motivating things for me was when we were at the coal facility and 100 Thieves was there too, or the guard was there, and like we scrimmed against them, and I was like, dude, I have a long way to go, you know? Like
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near like what I can be or what anyone can be. So like there's no reason for me to be complacent before I've done anything. You know what I mean?
So looking at that, your motivation to always improve and always get better, right? You have this event coming up with the Game Changers too. And has that, how do you feel your growth has been since the last conversation with Jake Lucky compared to now in terms of your skill set and how ready you are to face against your opposition?
I definitely think I've improved. I definitely think I've improved in different ways than just like mechanics, though. Like transitioning into like calling and stuff. I think it's definitely given me a different perspective. Right, like I used to be playing like a lot of chamber and like a lot of like fragging, I guess, and now I'm more like supportive, and I think it's given me like a different outlook on the game and stuff. And I definitely am like super excited to go against like the top teams in Game Changers, just to see like how far I've come. Because I remember like last time I played against C9, I only played against them once, and I remember they like were like insane, and I just want to like play against them again and see how we do, because I'm pretty confident and I'm excited to play against like the top teams, you know?
Nice.
And I got to see you on the NRG tournament. You guys were doing insane. And also, you said you haven't been playing for the longest time, but a lot of things have happened in the past year. How do you feel about the team itself right now? Because it looked so solid. I mean, we were talking about it with Tanner as well, like multiple times. You guys look insane. And that matchup that you were saying with Cloud9, with all those teams on the top, it seems like it's actually really, really possible for you guys to take.
Yeah, I feel like this team that we have right now, like everyone is so like individually talented. Oh god, I'm not focused. Everyone is so individually talented, I guess, and I'm like so confident in all my teammates to like make their own play, make the right play, like communicate with each other. Like I think our chemistry is like surprisingly good for how little we played together, and like every day we're improving, right? So I'm excited to play against like the top teams, because I hope it'll be a good match at least.
So, and even from the NRG tournament, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you've pivoted also from being a cracked out player to also being an IGL for the team now. So how has that transition been? Like, why did you decide to take the IGL role? And who mentors you into this so far?
So, I mean, when we so Panini was actually IGLing.
Okay.
And unfortunately she left the team, so we kind of didn't have an IGL, and my mentality has always been like team first, right? And I have not IGL'd, and I was not planning on ever IGLing, but at the time, like, someone kind of had to do it, so we tried me IGLing for a couple of days, and we kind of just stuck with it. And I think our coach Sloth has done like a good job, like, supporting me through it, right? Like, I won't always, or I definitely have not been making like the best calls, but I feel like every round, like, you can learn something, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I have not been this stressed out like ever. I think I'm going gray from IGLing. Like, that shit has me like fucked up.
Already?
Bro. Like,
That young? Come on,
it's not
Lace.
good, bro. Like, I be in the shower taking out gray hairs. I'm like, yo, like, this cannot be good.
But that said, I think that's the issue too, right? Because if you're looking at, you know, the community, the type of the comments that you could get as an IGL, or the type of comments that anybody has when somebody starts IGLing, but they have so much potential to be a fragger, it hinders into their fragging capability. I'm going to take Nuke, for example, at G2. People are saying that as well, is that if Nuke does an IGL, he could actually frag so much better as well. Do you feel that kind of played into effect when you started IGLing too? And how do you manage that to make sure that you stay on top of your game in terms of fragging on top of that?
I guess, like, I've always felt like at the end of the day, like, a win is a win, right? Like, like, someone can like VLR check you or like look at your stats or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, you're either winning or you're losing. So obviously, like, I want to get kills, right? Like, anyone does, right? Like,
Yeah.
it feels good. And I mean, I try my best to, I normally do like 10 to 15 like death matches a day just to try to stay on like my mechanics, I guess. But most of the time I'm thinking more about like what spots I can put like my fraggers in now. Like, you know, I gotta put like Claw and Kinsey in the best spots to like succeed. It's not really about like me at the end of the day, right? Like, it's about the team. Like, how can we win as a team? And that's definitely my main focus, is just putting everyone in like the best spots they can be in like each round. And like, if like the kills come to me, they come to me, right? But I'm trying to just, it's definitely just like team first mentality for me at the moment.
Sounds good.
So, Claudia, yourself, Kinsey, Power Pixel, Kara, right? That's kind of the roster we're looking at right now. I think everything had gotten announced across the board. And I'm pretty sure I saw Ali kind of still in the mix as manager. She's obviously, again, kind of been your direct mentor in this situation. And even for Complexity, for all the players who have, you know, come into this Complexity roster, this GX3 roster, what role is she playing now for the squad? Does she still have a large voice for you guys?
She does. She just like, she's still working full time, but she tries her best to be in there like every practice, right? Like, I think she has I mean, at least for me, like, I respect her so much, right? Like, she definitely has like a lot of say or like input, I guess. Like, especially like for discipline purposes, I feel like if we ever like aren't focused as like much as we can be, like, she definitely comes in, like, make sure we're all on like the same page and improving as much as we can be each day. So I appreciate her a lot for that.
Nice.
That's cool.
So what is the energy of right now? Because you said you're boot camping, everyone is kind of playing together and getting ready for that Game Changers that's about to start. How are you guys feeling? How do you think that the new team is coming together?
Sorry.
They're like, practice time, go.
Nah, Claw's trying to play more ranked, bro. They're all addicted, bro. They're like actually all addicted.
Let's go.
I think the team is actually coming together super well. I mean, I'm excited to play in person. Like, a couple of them haven't really played like on LAN before, so I think it's definitely gonna take a couple of days to get adjusted to. But I'm really excited for this tournament. It's kind of like the culmination of the year, and I think we're definitely all excited to like show what we can do, if that makes sense. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, at least for Complexity, like, our results have been like pretty disappointing this year. So I think I think we want to end the year on like a strong note. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think we're like
Mhm.
really looking forward to this event.
Awesome. And you were mentioning when you're actually trying to work on your mechanics and whatnot, doing 15 DMs a day. But I think also another thing about your mechanics is just how you use the abilities as well. And you had compliments coming in from Stark Show in the past too, going into your stream saying how good your Sky is and whatnot. So for someone such as you who's never played Valorant before, that found Valorant through Pokemon and decided to play, like, what were the first things that you decided to focus on? Was it like the aim? Was it movement? Was it abilities? How does it all blend together to be so cracked out within like a year?
I think one like really good thing about like starting something from complete scratch is you don't have any like bad habits, if that makes sense,
Mm.
right? Like you
Mhm.
don't have anything that you have to unlearn. Like everything is like fresh, I guess. And
Mhm.
I really tried to like emulate like the top level. Like obviously I was like silver, right? But I was still trying to do things the correct way, right? So I
Mhm.
think learning like ability usage, and I feel like like movement and aim. I did a lot of aim labs, like shout out aim lab, you know. Like and then just a lot of deathmatch, and I think deathmatch helps like the most in my opinion. I feel like you can, it's like the most like consistent like way to like make sure like you're peaking correctly, you know what I mean, like you're holding
Mhm.
correctly. um it's just very consistent, right? Because like in a game, like obviously like your utility is important, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, if you're not moving correctly, like at that, like it doesn't really matter. But I
Yeah.
think like splitting it up between like deathmatch, aim lab, water view, and then some rank games in there, like I think it helped me a lot, like learn the basics and then go further like with that, and try to become more advanced and um like strong with my util and everything that comes with that,
Yeah.
right?
And well, advancement seems to be the kind of the name for the team right now. I want to ask about uh, the most recent event that we kind of got to see all of the roster changes take place between obviously complexity and the version X's, the X sets, the TSMs. Everybody's looking a little different, and they all get slammed together for the NRG Neon Dreams event. And you guys beat the brakes off everybody. You guys shit on
So
everybody. Um, uh, although there were two teams that didn't partake, right? Cloud9 wasn't there, EG wasn't there. How detrimental to them do you think that is, not playing in those tournaments? Because like for Cloud9 White, you can probably make that argument that maybe they don't need to, but for Evil Geniuses, they they're still a team that need to be playing in these events, because as we look at them, they're still third place, and the Shopify's are doing it. So how much stock do you put into that event in your guys' victory, seeing that those two teams weren't there, and how much do you think that hurts them for not being there?
For us, I think like the one thing that we really lacked was like tournament experience, right? So like at least for me, like I knew I needed to get into like a tournament situation, especially like calling and stuff. Like scrims is one thing, but like a tournament is way different, right? Like in a scrim, like you're just trying to practice strats, right? Like you go into a scrim with like certain stuff that you want to work on, and then you just work on that, right? But in a tournament, it's about winning. So I knew like for me that I needed to like get into that environment. Um, I know like for EG, like they're super experienced, so maybe they like feel like they're like set on in that department, I guess, and maybe they're just like ironing out some like strats or some comps, right? Um, so I mean, I know they're like a really good team, and I'm sure they have like a game plan. So I wouldn't say anything like bad about them not participating. It's kind of up to them, right? Like what they need to work on, and
well, then, yeah.
as long as they're getting their practice in, I think they're doing their jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it starts for you guys this weekend. So on the 6th, 7th, the group stages are starting, and I think we're going through like a round robin this time, or like at least a GSL bracket.
GSL, yeah.
And looking at your group, you're playing against Pterodactyl's team, Solaire. You have Ara Ara, and you have Zenity Crimson. How's that group looking for you guys? Who's the toughest competition? Anything to look out for too when you're preparing for these tournaments?
Yeah, I definitely am gonna try to like read up on the teams in our group. I actually was surprised. I saw Solaire in the Game Changers Academy finals, I think this past weekend. I was like pretty impressed by them, so I'm excited to play against them. I know at least the core has been together for a while. I feel like I've been seeing them throughout like a lot of the events, and I don't think I've ever had the chance to play against them, so I'm excited. Like they're all nice people, so it should be a fun game at least.
Nice.
So you talked about kind of reading into them and looking it up. Now that you're in this IGL role, how much weight is on your shoulders for kind of VOD reviewing these teams? Or like, what is your process? You know, as we start in 2 days, Thursday. So what are you going to be looking to do headed into these matchups? Right? What information are you, I guess, supposed to? Because you do have a coach.
Yeah. At least like this past event, I definitely like reviewed before all the games we played, just to like give a game plan, like general map pools, like what we think we'll play, right? Like I can't give away too much, right? Like
Yeah, don't give away
hold
too
on,
much.
hold on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think both me and my coach, we both like review all the games, and we normally come up with similar stuff. We compare like and we'll make like a few extra strats, right? If we think like we see something we can like exploit, we'll definitely prepare for that. Like get an extra hour of like server time in before the match and make sure everything's looking good, right?
And one thing that I'm thinking of as well is I want to know how you specifically, and maybe your team as well, you take all those like early games that end up happening, maybe kind of taking it slow, just playing as well as you can, because we know a couple teams that have said it in kind of every level of Valorant. Some benefit really from a lot of experience playing in the tournament, even going to the losers and then coming up on top and getting more and more gameplay. And others, you want to play it safe. You want to give the least amount of information to the enemy team as possible. So kind of what do you think is the approach that you're having for this?
I definitely think like we just gotta make sure we're like fundamental, especially in the early stages of the tournament. We can't take like any team for granted, right? Like that's how like upsets happen. That's how like it starts to snowball, kind of like out of your control, right? Like 1 or 2 rounds, like you're just, like trolling a little bit, and then all of a sudden, right, like it's like a tie game, right? Like you don't know, you're losing, right? Like you don't know what's happening. So I definitely think, I mean, if we're like streamed and stuff, I'm sure we'll try to like, I mean, I don't know, like say some stuff. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. But yeah, I definitely think like as long as we like focus on our fundamentals, like play together, keep the comms up. I think that's what we'll focus on the most. I think getting the comms ready, like it's a big event, right? So maybe there's some nerves. I think like the first day or two, like we just want to make sure we're communicating well, we have the energy up, and I think we'll try to take that into the rest of the event.
What's the schedule for you guys been like ever since the boot camp? So when did you guys arrive over at the Complexity facility? What was day one, and what is the day like before going in? Like, is there like a training regiment, but from like working out and stuff like that too? Because I know you were pretty strong and opinionated about good nutrition and working out in order to get a good focus. So tell me a little bit about the day for the team.
So people started getting here on Sunday, so we haven't been here for that long. Yesterday we took it kind of light because everyone was like flying in, so we played a few scrims. But today is like the day like we're starting to like go hard, I guess that you could say. So I think we have like 7 scrims scheduled today with like a break in between, and it's gonna be the same tomorrow too. So it should be like a lot of work, but I think it'll pay off, right? So it's all worth it. And then
Yeah.
for the training like regimen, I know a few people on my team go to the gym. I definitely like to walk. Like I think like getting your blood flowing at least, like walk or jog like before you play is really important because I don't know. Like I know a lot of people that are like super like sedentary a lot of the time, and like that maybe that works for some people, but at least for me, I know like if I'm not moving, like if I'm not like getting myself in that mindset that like it's a game time, I guess, like I know my performance, and like especially like once I started IGLing, like my like process time and like process like I guess like making good like decisions, like my decision making for sure like suffers if I'm not like feeling my best. So I definitely try to get like a walk or a jog in the morning.
So I got energy, right? We're kind of talking about energy here. You obviously have a lot of it. Lacey, I feel like, is known for the energy. Is there ever a time that you're kind of feeling down on yourself? And obviously, you've got a couple of new teammates that you're playing with. But if you are not the Lacey that we know and love, who is on the team that is kind of like that angel on your shoulder telling you like, hey, it's gonna be all right? Like who's helping you get that energy up, or is it just the Lacey show in that department?
I mean, I feel like everyone on my team is like, especially in tournament, I was surprised. Like everyone's like super positive. Everyone's like next round, which I like a lot. But I mean, I definitely broke a few eardrums, right? Like I'm screaming and stuff. Like after a clutch, I'm hyping everyone up. Like I'm definitely pretty loud. I think like I'm surprised. Like everyone on my team is like pretty calm and stuff. Like they're very like level-headed. That's why I think I shake it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I love all my teammates. Like, I think we're pretty like level-headed and stuff, which I think is good. Like, we're all just about like the next round. Like, how can we improve? And I think that's like a really good thing to have in a team.
Okay, and then I got a small one. Now that you're outside of your element, right? Out on a different schedule, at a different place that's not home, do they have the peanut butter toast at the Complexity facility? Are you still able to get, at the very least, your Lacey breakfast?
So I actually live here, so I'm saying like I can go to my apartment in the morning and make some toast.
No
you know?
way.
So I knock on my door, I say what's up to my dad, and I make some peanut butter toast. It's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay.
So still in your element in some place, way, shape, or form here by being able to go home and get your toast.
Yeah.
That said, though, I think also on a note of what's next here, not only with Game Changers, but also with Complexity. Because what are your thoughts also on Complexity not making it into the partnership program and having his hard decision to partially exit out of Valorant? And what's next here for you guys, Complexity? Were there any talks of like what's going on for Game Changers after this one as well?
I mean, for me, it was like actually really sad saying goodbye to the guys team. I think like at least for us, we felt like they were like really like big supporters, and I mean, we were always like watching their games, like cheering them on, and like seeing like any team really at all, and like this like big like roster mania process like split up was like it's really sad to see. I mean, I don't know exactly what Complexity's plans are. I know they like believe in us, and I hope they continue to believe in us. And I mean, I hope to see like more rosters, more orgs come back in for the Ascension League, right? But
Yeah,
I'm not like 100% sure on what their plan is, but I guess we'll see.
And even that said, I think it's more also on what's happening next for the Game Changer scene, right? So after this finishes out in Berlin, what's going to happen in 2023 for the Game Changers? Is it going to get into its own partnership program too? And if that's the case, then hopefully we'll still get the continuation and the partnership between Complexity and GX3, something that that is hold dear to Alice as well. Yeah, I'm hoping for the best for you guys. Hoping for the best for Game Changers this weekend too, man. It's a big tournament coming up. How far are you guys in terms of like the points and what you need to be able to qualify? Is it like a deep run that you need? Like what's going on here at this point? How much pressure does that bring on to you guys?
I think it's win or go home, honestly. Like straight up, I think we got to win or we ain't going. You know what I mean? So I mean that's our goal, right? Like I think anything short of winning would I mean I don't want to say disappointment, right? Like I love my teammates, but I feel like that's definitely what we're shooting for, right? Like
Makes
and
sense.
I don't know, I'm just like I'm excited to play everyone. Like it's hard to say, right? We haven't played like the definitely like what's ranked the tippity top of the teams, right? So I'm just excited to see how we shape up.
That's
and
awesome.
I hope everything goes well. I mean, I'm confident in this. So.
Hey man, it oozes confidence every time you come onto the show. So I fucking love having you on here, Lace. We wish you all the best for you and Complexity for this weekend. Good luck with the IGLing too, and hopefully you'll be able to realize that goal of winning Game Changers 3 and then going to Berlin for the world stage. So, any final words you'd like to give to your fans, to your friends, to your family before we close this off here?
Not much. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been so much fun. I love talking to you guys, and yeah, you know, like hashtag Cole win, you know, like shout out Lenovo Legion, you know, like all that good stuff. Like that Herman Miller be nice, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for having me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you too. Great. Good luck with the boot camp and everything too. That was Lace of Complexity, guys. We're going to go for a break because we have another interview coming up actually, and it's going to be with Sia of Tenstar to discuss things that has been going on through EMEA. So let's go ahead and take that break, and when we come back, Sia on the desk. If you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the bell for the future noties, but also comment below with what you'd like to see in our future shows. Welcome back, folks, with a great interview that we had earlier on with Lace over at Complexity, but it's now time to move overseas to EMEA and bring on another wonderful guest, Sia of Tenstar, who's here to join us today. The last time she was on the show was for our 100th episode, and this time she's able to come back in to talk about how things have been going for Sia. So, Sienna, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for your time. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Chilling.
Good.
I need to ask you, how's the hairstyle like this?
No.
Is it too nerdy? Is it? I need to maybe just hide it, right? Oh, you
Yeah,
know what?
it's very
Actually, that's
nerdy.
better. Right there you go. There you go. I think that makes a change right there. But Sia, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go ahead and talk about how things have been going with you over at the EMEA and your career overall since the last time we spoke. Because the last time we spoke, you were still playing for Rix.gg. You guys are making an impact, or you were making an impact in that team, and then now you're with Tenstar. So talk me through the evolution of going from Rix.gg and why over to Tenstar after.
I would say because my dream has always been to play with the French team and especially French champions. So when we got the offer from Tenstar to play with them, it was pretty obvious for me to directly go to Tenstar. With all respect to my old teammates, it just it was a dream for me to perform in a French team and just speak French basically.
Awesome. I'd love to
And is
continue in French here too, by the way, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to help Tanner or Dryad unless we go into Spanish or something.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, English only, please. Ay Dios mío is the only Spanish I know. So I noticed that Kim also kind of had followed you over towards that Tenstar roster. Is that something that you requested specifically, or does she kind of have that same background and the same ideals to move from that Rix team to the Tenstar team?
It was more her requesting me. It was more
Okay.
me following Kim because she knows Cla. Cla is one of her very best friends, and they've been knowing each other for such a long time. They've been playing Counter-Strike together. They've been pro in Counter-Strike together. So she asked me to follow her, and I went for it because my growth ever since I met Kim in Tenstar has been huge, and I was I have to stay with that person because I keep on growing whenever I play with her.
Nice.
And-
Sorry to continue on. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You said it is exactly what you wanted. You wanted to join the org. It was a pretty easy kind of decision for you. Was it? Do you think it fulfilled your expectations? Do you think it's still kind of early because the journeys can be very long, or how do you feel about it right now?
Half and half. I feel it is still early because we've been playing together for 4 months. It's nothing compared to the other teams. But on the other side, what we achieved for the amount of work we've put in, it's insane to me. So I feel early, but the journey is gonna be amazing and everything's good for now.
Yeah. Does any of that also comes in the recent addition of your performance coach to get the right mental into there, because you brought in Coco as a performance coach back in September. Have you had a chance to speak with this person yet? Work with this person? What has Coco brought over to Tenstar and for the team as well?
I would say he definitely helped, but I don't know if it really changed the matter to me personally, but I know it changed for other players. For example, Nello, she had private sessions with him, and she kind of had troubles with her mental in game, and ever since she talked with Coco and had sessions with him, she got so much better at not tilting, and he helped a lot around that, honestly.
I feel that's super important as well to have, because that was something that was with 100 Thieves, for example, when Will was getting a lot of flack from the community on Reddit or whatnot. It kind of hindered his performances and his confidence to play online. And his performance coach, quote unquote, was pretty much DDK at that point too, amongst other people that was under the 100 Thieves regime, to how do you deal with that type of pressure? How do you evolve into that too? And how do you get over that that pressure that comes out from the community? And then you saw Will just do and play amazingly through the LCQ and also at Champions. So I think it definitely fits the right people and the right mentality at that point as well. Tanner, you're looking back and forth and smiling. I don't know if you're oh, it's not true. You're bullshitting.
Dude, listen, I have no clue what you guys are even talking about. My internet has been going in and out for the past 2 I heard Coco, and then I came back in and I was looking left to right like I was Sly Fox about to steal something.
That's awesome.
So I apologize. I didn't mean to. I'm
It's
the
okay.
problem
You
child.
stole
That's
the
my
mic time. It's all good. It's all good.
That's
But
my fault.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But also for performance coaches, I think it's also important to have like the team chemistry as well, right? Sia, and if I'm not mistaken, there's like even graphics of you like cooking for the team or something like that as well.
Oh,
how's
yeah.
how's the camaraderie been with the girls together so far?
I mean, bootcamp buff is a real thing. Like team
Mhm.
building and like boot camping helps a lot. Like when it comes to trusting each other.
Yes.
So it's been amazing. Like I don't think we would have performed that well if we didn't have a boot camp.
And
Eh,
was that also with like not only the boot camp, but that helps with like the versus like the other teams that you've been with. Have you had boot camps with Rix.gg or something like that as well?
No, never. That was my first boot camp ever. So like
Oh,
kind of
okay, okay.
stressful, but on the other side, it was amazing experience.
That's awesome.
It always sounds like such a fun experience. Just being in a boot camp, being able to actually be there with your teammates and get something done. Even individually, when I ask you, and throughout this year and throughout your career, tell me how you felt and kind of the reflection that you have now that it is a little bit more chill for the rest of the year and until everything starts back up next year.
I didn't really understand the question. I
So
was more like listening to a story than actually getting a question. Sorry.
yeah, so how do you feel about the kind of like the reflection of this
Hmm.
entire year and just kind of chilling before the next year starts?
I feel like we can't really chill because we have no idea what's gonna happen within like Game Changer. Like
Mhm.
we don't know what's happening
Mhm.
yet. Like the only thing we know is that there's gonna be champions soon, but like we're not qualified, so that doesn't matter to us. Like we can't chill because imagine, surprise, there's a Game Changer in January and we don't know about it for now. So I don't know. We have to work instantly. Like next week we're starting practice again and we're going down for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, I'd seen you talking in the chat previously. You're the current IGL for the 10-star squad
No,
right now?
I'm not anymore.
No,
I was
not
talking
anymore.
about it when I used to IGL.
Okay, so when you use IGL, so what is that? So, if you guys didn't see the chat message, Sia was saying that IGL helps because the ADHD sometimes doesn't on the server, and being the IGL obviously helps you focus more. So, what is something that you do as somebody who has a harder time focusing on the server now that you're not IGLing?
Yeah.
What is kind of your ritual or what keeps you grounded?
Definitely what helped me the most out of everything I've tried was having notes around my screen everywhere. Notes, notes,
Mm.
notes, notes, notes. And every rounds before like the beginning of the rounds on a freeze time, I would look at my notes and it would help me focus. Remembering what I have to do, remembering like what I have to not do, like yeah, notes definitely.
Mhm.
Okay, interesting.
To get back to what you were talking about before too, in terms of we don't know what's next going on for Game Changers. So obviously there hasn't really been any type of conversation in terms of like an off season, just like the VCT currently has, right? There's been a shit ton of tournaments that have been announced. What do you think could be something that the community could do to continue to support the women's scene or the Game Changer scene until we get ready to what's coming up in 2023?
I don't have much idea when it comes to community, for example, I would say like
Mhm.
having more exposure from like the not like smallest like medias. Like for
Mhm.
example, I feel like as a French team we don't have enough exposure from the French medias,
Mm.
and they talk a lot about like I don't know, of course it's a big thing. Wow, Scream might join a French organization with his brother, but I feel like we could have been like a subject of conversation in this media and
I
we have
see.
not.
So it's at least more exposure in terms of like the media and basically what for example Paper X has done at their facility, having a mural and stuff like that too. Guild having that graffiti on the top that also has one of their players from the
Yeah.
Game Changers in there, like Roxy on the wall too. So that type of support that you like to have in terms of like more exposure for the team and you as a player would be helpful too.
Yeah, I feel like exposure and representation matters a lot, like a whole lot. And I don't know, there might be like some little girls, because when I was younger, I was like, I don't know, 13, 12, I was looking at like older player, like, I don't know, like Pla, who's in my team, like Kim, who's in my team. And I was like dreaming of, being them and being at their spot. And I feel like maybe if we have more exposure and more representation, we could give like this idea of a dream to like younger girls, and yeah, it would be really good to have more representation.
Awesome.
And besides that representation and exposure, is there something that you would like to see that maybe you thought it would be a good idea for the Game Changer scene next year that maybe you haven't seen before?
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't come from the community. That would come from Riot directly. But I feel like having a Game Changer league would matter a lot. With like having weekly games, like something that's not once every 3 months. You know, a league would be so
But
interesting.
are you afraid on the other end too that if the league is going to come for Game Changers in 2023, so a partnership program, let's say for Game Changers, and let's say in Europe it's going to be another one of those, oh well, we're only going to allow 5 teams, and then you're looking at what's going on in Game Changers at the EMEA, there's at least like a good 10-15 teams that are signed right in Europe. So are you afraid of going through that that type of interview process as well as Tenstar?
Yeah, that's really scary, not gonna lie, because that would be like a really damaging thing to the scene if you have to be like accepted to play in the league. But on the other side, I feel like Riot will be smart about it, you know, and they would understand that it's not like male teams, there's not enough female teams to do like this franchise thing, you know. So
I see.
I have hope.
So I would hope that, as much as I love like the academy scene, I would hope that because we do have a flourishing Game Changer scene for Valorant specifically, that instead of taking the League of Legends template and saying, you know, main team, academy team, we have, you know, main team, Game Changers team, and then eventually all of that gets, you know, merged together, because the Game Changers team would kind of act as an academy team and play in their own thing. That'd be super cool to see. That's not where I'm headed with my next question. And I may have just forgot what I was going to ask by saying that. So you guys kind of walked. Oh, okay. Hold on, I'm back. I'm sorry. Okay, serious face. In North America, I mean, we just saw it where NRG puts on a tournament for the Game Changer scene, Neon Dreams. We see the top teams come out. Is that something that you've maybe spoke with, if not Tenstar, Rix, GG in the past to say, hey, why aren't we putting on these tournaments? Like, we can get the funding for it. Let's, if Riot isn't going to give us a space yet to put on these tournaments, why don't we do it ourselves?
I mean, Rix did it. Rix used to do Huntress Trials. The thing is that when you're part of the organization that does the tournament, you can't participate in it. Yeah. So that's kind of the issue right now.
Yeah.
We have like outside tournaments, like I don't know if you know the Observer Mel. She did like the Medusa tournament.
The Medusa.
She did Medusa series. But I feel like even though we have that, and thank God we have that outside of Game Changer, it's still not enough. We need more. We need to play. Like, we only play like, I don't know, 4 weeks a year in a tournament. That's so small compared to like the amount of work we put in and the amount of salary we get throughout the whole year compared to like the time we're actually gonna play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want, if it's too much salary, so yeah, I will gladly that. I would gladly. No, I know that it's kind of a big thing, and I would imagine kind of across the scene in general. But what is it like in finding scrims as a Game Changers team? Is that something that you guys are struggling with as a whole, or how is it on the MEA side?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there's a good amount of time where people are canceling because they figure out that we're a female team. So even though we will 100% wreck them, but you know,
right?
They're afraid of that. They're afraid of that.
Yeah,
I was hoping that
probably
wasn't
would hurt
the
their
answer.
ego.
Exactly. Fuck them.
Yeah,
that's all we want to say about that. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan. I think you had something queued up.
Yeah, I want to ask. You say, obviously you want to play more. Everybody seems like they want to play more in the Game Changer scene. Do you think what do you think is the balance, right? Because we've also heard stories of players feeling like they're always playing, they're always traveling, even in the tier 1 scene. And that can also be exhausting, right? What do you think would be an ideal kind of scenario that maybe you're playing for a month, then you take a break, maybe something international, something like Masters 1? Is that kind of something that you're hoping for Game Changers?
I don't know. Maybe I can't get this idea of being exhausted and playing too much because I've never been in that situation. Like, I play once every 3 months in a tournament, if not 5 months. Like, I can't project myself in a position where it would be like too much to play because I dream of playing too much, actually. Like that, I want to play too much. I want to be exhausted of gaming. I don't know the sensation, like, you know.
You actually even tweeted that out like after you guys lost and exited of Game Changers, and there's a break of like, fuck, I just want to play right away. Like, you don't want this break to happen. So that's
Mhm.
what we're also hoping, that there's going to be a little bit more third parties opening their eyes to support the women's scene over in Europe. But well, let's get into that and talk about the run for Tenstar in Game Changers overall. So I know you're frowning a little bit because it was like one of those moments that it's like so close yet so far, finishing fourth in a tournament. But let's look through the bracket. I think one of the biggest matchups to start things off, I think personally for yourself in your career, is to have to play against your old team, right? So you Tenstar did play against Rix.GG at some point throughout the tournament. What was that like for you? Was that difficult to play? Was that easier to call against for your IGL, because you've IGL'd 4 Ricks before, so you kind of know their tendencies? Or talk to me through that game.
I didn't feel much pressure playing against Rix, not because I think they're weak or anything. It's just like I had to be confident. I had to, because if I accepted that pressure when it came around like playing against my old team, I would have failed. So I just like I was like, yeah, whatever, let's go for it. And I didn't treat this match like more than any other. It was just like, yeah, it feels bad if I win against my old teammates, they're gonna be out, but on the other side, I have to do it. So I just went for it. Like, we threw the first map though. Like, we jumped on the first map really hard. I'm not
Still
gonna
made it
mention the
through.
first
Still made
map.
it through. Still made it through.
Yeah, precisely.
So obviously, I never know. I've never been a competitor at the highest level, so I don't ever know what the feeling is like when you do eventually lose, you do eventually get knocked out. Then you go on to see the team that beat you, and you're like, well, shit, they won the whole thing, right? How do you feel that you guys shaped up against this Guild X team, who did eventually go on to kind of shock the scene?
I mean, very happy for Guild X, but on the other side, very frustrated for myself, because it's not about like, I would rather have lost against Guild like 13-3 or like 13-0. We lost 15-13 and we had the advantage, and we threw this game. So like, it was even harder for me to like losing against them because it was this close, you know? And it was not just against Guild, against Navi as well. Close game, winning 10-5, losing 13-11. You know, like, very frustrated, very, very frustrated, but also like happy for Guild, you know, on some way. It's hard to say, but happy for Guild.
It is really cool to see another team managing to be at the top, especially for the first time, right? After seeing G2 kind of always taking it. I want to ask about those two teams for EMEA and your personal thoughts about how you think they're going to match up against whoever is going to make it to the international stage. Do you think EMEA is just staying at the top with how much both of those teams have been improving, or is there something that you've been watching from another region, maybe NA, that you think would be a little bit more difficult for the EMEA teams?
Or I would say Brazil, actually.
That's awesome. That's a good take.
That's what Dryad wanted to
awesome.
hear.
Team Liquid Brazil, I think they're really like confident. Yeah, they look
They're
good,
awesome.
in my opinion. I don't know I don't know who's gonna win, honestly, because I have no idea how a game like EMEA versus NA or versus Brazil, or even like versus like the Asian region and stuff would look like, because the gameplay is so different. Like, so different. Like, I've watched like VODs from Cloud9 White. I've watched like Team Liquid Brazil, we actually screamed against them, and like so many things. Like, everything's so different, and I don't know how it would look like in an actual tournament. Like, I can't tell, because it's not a skill. Like, it's not a skill thing. Everybody's really skilled and really talented when it comes to like individuality, but when it comes to like team play, I have no idea how it's going to look like.
Yeah. I want to get back and revisit, actually, because you're mentioning the leads that you had against Navi, the lead that you or the win that you could have had against Guild, right? On Ascent. What was going on through the conversations or through the comms that unfortunately led to the victory of that map slipping through your fingers? And what are the learning experience that you get out of these matches to make sure it doesn't happen the next time Tenstar faces these teams?
Lack of experience, I would say, as a team together. Like, we didn't find solutions, and that's what cost us the game. We didn't find solutions. We lost clutch, eco, 5 versus 3, 5 versus 2, like, you know, all the things like that made you lose the momentum, and this is precisely what happened. We lost the momentum, and we work like really well with momentum because we're new team. So yeah, also we had a little drama where we didn't have our coach, So yeah.
What happened there? Actually, what happened there with no coach? Are you
Okay.
allowed? Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I mean, what happened is that we arrive at the boot camp, and day one we get a text. I mean, our manager gets a text from our old coach saying he's not coming to the boot camp and he's leaving the team.
Oh,
Yeah. So thank God I have this amazing organization that's Tenstar. They find us an emergency coach. They're here for us. They're helping us. Like our manager, like he contacted everyone he could contact to like help us out. So we've had this amazing replacement as a coach who's Lo, who
holy.
used to play in OG game. Yeah, OG.
Yeah, yeah.
He used to play in
Yeah.
OG.
Yeah.
So he comes in. He's actually better than the old coach. But yeah, it was kind of hard for us to start the Game Changers because we didn't have a coach.
Wow.
He
That's
just
insane.
disappeared. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
But on top of that, to have an emergency coach come last minute and really not really seeing how the team usually gels together and just be like, this is what I think could run well according to what you guys play, and
Oh,
you
he did
still
so much
get
better.
4th place. But still, I think I think you should be proud and
Yeah.
happy about that result, no matter what, right?
I mean, I legit believe we would have done worse with the other coach than this one. Not to be shady or anything, but like actually, he did so many things for us in such a short amount of time. Like
Mhm.
that made a really good difference, and I don't think it would have happened with the other coach. Honestly, like I doubt that. So the 4th place is good spot, but on the other side, very frustrating because it's not
Mhm.
about like being 4th; it's about the way we're losing
Winning.
games.
Yeah.
No, you mentioned momentum, and obviously that when you're a new team or a relatively new team together, kind of like momentum can be the glue in the cracks of this, beautiful vase. And you lost some of that, or we're struggling with some of that. And it's a question that was brought up. This is more holistically on the scene and what was going on with Guild X. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of the Viper mollies, the bugs that we've been seeing on the teams not reading the rulings in some of these, right? Because obviously, if Guild X lose to Ascend, they don't go on to win the whole thing. So I wanted to get your thoughts, or if you had any thoughts on just that whole situation.
The only thing I can say is that if I was Ascend, I would be very frustrated. Like, with all respect to Guild, like, I don't know, like, I'm sure they didn't mean to do bad, like 100%, because I know how bad Ness felt about this whole situation. But on the other side, if I was from Ascend, I would be very mad. Like, I would be very frustrated, and I don't know. I have to like have empathy for both teams. Like, I maybe like Guild would not have won this tournament, or maybe they would have won this tournament. We don't know. So yeah.
Yeah. In the end of the day, they still played those rounds out, and Guild X ended up pulling through. So, yeah, there is definitely. I would agree with you. There's frustration on both ends, but to be able to keep the resiliency to move forward, win that, and then go into the grand finals, and also beat G2 and a BO5, I think that at least the feathers were ruffled, but they didn't fall, right? So they were still able to soar and fly. So good on Guild X for that, for sure.
Definitely. Like, I don't know. Things that it's not just about like replaying rounds, it's also about like losing the momentum. You lose a lot of things. Like it's I don't know. This is a really hard situation to talk about. Like,
yeah, and so that's why I brought it up, right? Because not to like out the players, I do think that there needs to be a communication between the coach and like an understanding going into it, saying, because obviously, Ness didn't know that you couldn't do that. Had the coach done their due diligence, he could have let the players, or they could have let the players know, hey, avoid doing this stuff because we'll get penalized for it. But I figured you would have strong feelings about it because of how much you enjoy that momentum, and in a situation like that, you would completely lose it all. Even having to go back to do it, you're still kind of pissed off that it happened in the first place. And now, sure, you get a chance to replay it, but shit, everybody's told about it.
Precisely. Like, that's exactly my point. Like, there's a lot of frustration coming in. Like, the fact that you have to replay all of that, it's like they replayed from like round 8. I mean, round 8, 9. I don't know. Very frustrating. But on the other side, like, I can't say much because I can understand that someone like makes a mistake. So I believe Ness when she said that she didn't know. But on the other side, I understand Ascend when they say that they're very mad and frustrated. 100% understandable.
And going away a little bit from that topic, I want to ask, and something that we've seen in the Game Changers scene, I think internationally overall, we always see, after Series 1, we saw a couple of changes for teams, a couple of roster changes. Series 2 was the same thing, and that is happening in NA currently. We also got to see an EMEA in other regions. How much at what point do you think teams are going to start to settle in? Do you think it's going to be just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with the Game Changer scene next year, and teams are going to stay together for a little bit longer? Or do you think because there's so many teams and there's so many players that kind of come out of nowhere, we're going to keep seeing those constant changes from their rosters?
I would say this is never gonna happen. This is esports. There's
Mhm.
always gonna be changes every time. Like it's not just like game changer scene, also male scene. Like
Yeah, of course.
anytime they can get changes, they will change. It is how it is. Like I feel like it's it's not surprising if like a lot of players are getting tried out in new teams and people are trying like to freshen up and try new things. I think it's always gonna happen. They're always gonna like pick up new players, try out new players, things like that.
Mhm.
What's Sorry, go ahead, Tanner. Go ahead.
So I think I'm kind of maybe leading into what you might be leading into here, Vans. But if there is a world where things start to settle down and we do see things partnered on the Game Changer side, would you be willing? I know that you said you wanted to play the French team, but would you be willing to maybe venture into new areas as a player alone, or even a package deal with Kim? Is that something that you do to travel to the Americas or something like that?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know
Given
if
the
I can answer to
opportunity.
that.
Okay.
I don't know if I can give my answer, but I would say that before, I, when I was playing in Rix and I was like, even before Rix, when I was looking for a team, I would have loved to try it for another region.
Mhm.
That's what I can answer to you.
Mm. Awesome.
Okay.
And that said, then has there been any conversations of what the support is with Tenstar moving on with the team going into 2023, right? Because I'm pretty sure looking at now everything that's going through the roster shuffles, the talks that's been going on through the partnership program for the men's side, does that instill any type of like doubts, fear as to what's going to happen for the women's side as for you going into 2023 with Tenstar?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we made to top 4 and we lost our last game, everybody was like, oh, fuck, what's going to happen for us now?
Yeah.
And we got immediate news like 2 days after from our manager telling us everything's going to be all right. We're keeping the team. We're focusing on you guys. Like,
Nice.
everything's going to be okay. And like, once again, thank God we have Tenstar.
Mhm.
Because this, like, it's an organization that's always been focused on like female development on game changer scene from
Yeah.
like day one. So it would have been weird if they dropped us, but on the other side, yeah, we were scared, and it's not happening.
Yeah. And that's awesome too, because now you're confident and you're more comfortable that you have that support. There's less stress, and now that's probably another reason why you're just ready to fucking play as soon as you can, right? And not have to
Yeah.
wait until 2023 until something else is announced. But unfortunately for now, that break is happening. So what's the plan now for Sia going into the next few months before anything gets announced for 2023?
Or gaming, just playing 24/7. I'm a nerd. I'm a whole nerd. Like I'm just gonna play. Like that's what I want, because even if I was frustrated by this top 4, on the other side, it just gave me so much like confidence to go further. Like I was like, okay, I got top 4, and we didn't really do anything. Like we
Yeah.
didn't really work for this top 4.
We didn't have a
So,
coach.
What if? Yeah,
Until
no,
last
precisely.
minute,
We
yeah.
didn't have a coach. Even if when he was there, he wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like he was
Yeah, yeah.
terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
insane.
Well, I
Like,
mean, I understand that frustration too when somebody's leaving you like that as well, right? So
Yeah.
especially like
I thought
last
it was a
second just getting
joke.
fixed.
I
Yeah, yeah,
legit
yeah.
thought it was a joke. I was like, I was looking at my manager and I was laughing. I was like, no, you're joking. You're kidding. And he was like,
Oh,
no, I'm
fuck.
not. And I was like, oh, okay. Well,
That's amazing. Well, at least there's is there gonna be like some along with the gaming? Are you gonna be streaming that as well, or yeah, okay, awesome. Where can we find you? Because right now we have your @ as well for Twitter, but what's your stream so we can give some support
same
over to Sia?
at.
Okay,
Same at. Yeah.
Cianael.
Yeah. Same at.
Perfect. Cianael. Awesome. Well, Sia, thank you so much for your time. I think that's gonna end it for us for today with you. Do you have any final shout outs you'd like to give out before we end the show here?
Oh, not much. Just always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be EMEA representation in the female scene here.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for giving me the exposure that the EMEA scene can get in North America. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
If anything, super happy to have you on. So thank you so much for your time as well, and to grace us with your presence. And cheers to more, and cheers to hearing more about Sia in 2023 with Tenstar or wherever your career may lead you. Hell yeah, that's what I like to fucking hear.
Hell yeah.
So with that, my friends, we're gonna close off the show. It's been packed. It's been packed, actually. Great conversation with Sia, great conversation with Lace, and also great news going on through in North America, in Latin America, South America, and Europe. We covered a lot of regions. We just didn't get enough of East Asia. Actually, we did get East Asia. We got Aaron, right? So we dabbled a little bit in that too. We dabbled in
a little
that
bit of
as well.
everything, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know what you guys think. Tanner, good show?
Yeah, I think it's a great show. Anything that I could do to convince Dryad to be my friend is, it's okay,
Nope.
well.
Dan, what
then
can
the show was
Dan,
nothing.
what can
Then
he
the
do?
show
What
meant
can he
nothing.
do? What can he do, Dan?
There's
Absolutely nothing.
No, I don't think so.
That's it,
Nope.
man. That's it.
At least next Tuesday we know that we're still gonna have Tanner and myself here for the show for Valoranting. But what's in the store for Dan for the next couple of months?
I started streaming, which is a little crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy. I started streaming and I love it.
Actually, you
because
know
I get
what?
to do English and Spanish.
I just did fake surprise face, but I think I saw you tweet that you're gonna finish Stray and stuff like that too. You're doing some variety games.
I'm grinding.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing like a little bit of Valorant. I was co-streaming the APAC Game Changers. I'm gonna keep co-streaming the APAC Game Changers in the next week. And yeah, we also have Game Changers coming up. It got announced that we're all working that event. So hey.
Hell yeah! This weekend, all three of us are gonna be cast into Game Changers, and make sure you guys catch us there. It starts on Thursday on twitch.tv/Valorant. But I was gonna say, because I had D and Peak, because that's where you're gonna have to tune in every Tuesday right over here. So at least we'll cover what happened for Game Changers that's gonna happen this weekend. So thank you all so much for tuning in for this week. See you next week once again, and arrivederci.